Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like him. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.
You're listening to another Big Buck Breakdown from the Element Podcast. Yep. What's happening, all my woods people? It's a dreary day here today for the weather and also for KC because he's not feeling very good. He's a little under the weather.
I am, figuratively and physically right now. It's a weathery kind of day, but we're making this thing happen either way.
Yeah. So I know you don't feel good. We're going to keep this pretty quick and to the point, but we have Jake Hofer from Exodus. They have a pretty cool trail camera company that has a lot of cool things going on, and they have some good trail cameras. And Jake has been on the podcast before. You've heard him in the Big Buck Breakdowns before, which was last year, I think. And then you've also heard him talk trail cameras and give some really cool tips and thoughts about trail cameras as well. So these guys are cool. These guys are full of knowledge and that kind of thing. And we are full of a lack of hunting experiences in the last week or so because it's been Christmas, it's been 70 plus degrees, and now today it's raining like crazy and warm. So we're probably just going to go ahead and send this over to Jake and let him tell you about this awesome old ancient buck that he shot.
There's blood in the river, and that's why they call it the red. There's blood in the river, and that's why they call it the red.
All right, so now on the phone we've got Jake Hofer from Exodus. You guys have been just a big help getting these Big Buck Breakdowns out this year as far as just, helping us keep the lights on. And now you're just a further help because if this is our last Big Buck Breakdown, we're fulfilling it with Jake Hofer, who has been a big buck killer in the past, who has done the Big Buck Breakdowns in the past. Like, dude, you just somehow, like, I don't know, you've got this whole thing, like this aura around you that's like, oh, I just like laugh and have fun, and then I end up killing a big deer. It's like you don't, like there's big buck killers out there that everybody pays attention to that really take themselves serious, and you're not, and I think that's why I like you a lot, man. But thanks for coming on and doing this, man.
Man, anytime. Yeah, it's always great to talk to you guys.
Yeah, dude. And thank you guys for helping us do these Big Buck Breakdowns this year. It's been pivotal for us traveling around and stuff like that, but and we've enjoyed having the cameras, man. They've really done some great stuff for us as far as just helping us to really catch the details and not miss bucks and stuff like that, which is something we dealt with last year. But anyway, we got to hang out with you and Chad last year at ATA and got to know you guys and really like you guys, really appreciate you guys. Are y'all going to ATA this year, I guess?
We will be there for Friday and Saturday. We got to get some work done earlier in the week, and we're going to head out there for a day and meet up with some folks. And are you guys going to be there?
I am not 100% sure, but I am working on it right now. I think that it might happen. So if I do, I'll let you know. And
yeah, I'll have to link up.
Well, yeah, for sure, man. We'll grab a bite to eat again or something. So anyway, dude, you have done it again. And there's is this on a special day for you? Does this happen often on November 3rd? It's been a while since this happened, but we're just now getting you on. But
yeah, so that was this year I killed the buck November 3rd. The year before I killed the buck November 3rd. So that's the 2-year streak per se, and it was actually pretty funny. I thought I killed my buck November 2nd last year, and I was talking to my dad. Like, didn't do it, didn't get it done. I'm going. This is the latest I haven't killed a buck in the season in 3 years, and I was just wrong a day, and I ended up killing a buck November 3rd. So it was just kind of funny after I figured it out. Like, November 3rd, sweet,
dude, that's awesome. I don't know if I've never killed a buck before November 7th, I don't think. So I've had some trouble for sure getting it done early like you. But you guys, you're up there. I guess this is an Illinois buck, right?
Yep, this is Illinois, yep.
Yeah. So
a little bit different.
It's a little different, yeah. Your season starts probably, they start getting kicked up and the season starts cooling down and everything up there a little earlier. But this buck looked like the kind of buck that I like to chase, man. And this buck is like, I guess reading your Instagram post, this is a buck that you had some history with. Talk about that, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, so this is somewhat of an interesting story. I got permission on this farm 2 years ago. So last year I hung a camera off a bedding area, headed onto the neighbor's food source. And the very first card pull, I got a tank and velvet. And of course I was excited. This was like in September, and there was already a scrape getting worked up, off the edge of that bedding area. And I was like, I'm probably going to be able to kill this deer. I feel really good about it. And to anyone that knows how that goes, whenever you feel like you're going to kill them, I don't know if it always works that way. But anyways, so I knew of him really early last year. And I saw him, he worked a scrape at the end of October, that same scrape that I found in September. And then he was in there cruising for does mid-November. And then late season, I really thought I was going to have a chance to kill him. Right now it's so warm in Illinois in late December, but last year it was a lot colder, and I felt like I had a legitimate chance of killing him. In one instance, I bedded off one of these knobs, and I saw like 17 deer. I saw 3 bucks get out of their bed, and it was everybody but him in that group that showed up and walked by. So that was a little disheartening. But then I saw that he survived the remainder of the season, and it's kind of interesting, too. There was a very large-bodied 9-pointer last year, and for instance, in January even, that 9-pointer, a younger buck came and hit a scrape, and then the buck I killed this year came in and hit a scrape, tail tucked, acting very nervous. I mean, he was in the 160s for sure last year, so it's weird seeing a 160-inch deer with his tail tucked walking in nervous to a scrape.
Yeah.
And then immediately right after that, that big bully 9-pointer, which would score less last year, in comparison, but for whatever reason, he was kind of the bully in the area. And he comes in and works a scrape right after that. And then, which was also really interesting. And then, so that was the last time I saw him that season. And then I pulled a card in like March, and there was 2 bucks that were shed staring right at each other with both their ears absolutely pinned back, like ready to fight. So it was pretty interesting to see him last year. I'd never had a legitimate chance to, I never saw him the hoof last year, if that makes sense.
It's crazy, man. So, like, this year, he's on the downhill is what you would call it. Like, this buck has to be pretty old, right?
Yeah, I'm going to age his teeth. So this is where, after you kill a deer is when you start finding more about it, at least in small parcel country of Illinois. So what happened this year was I thought I had a picture of him in velvet and ended up not being him. And that was like 4th of July. Just the basis, and he had some junk coming off the bottom. I was like, okay, I think that's him. Last year he had a lot of stuff coming out of the, like split brow tines and that kind of stuff. So I thought that was him the 4th of July. It was not. So then going into this year, I did not see him. And then in October, I was driving around. It was a warm day, and I saw this buck way across the field about 3/4 of a mile, maybe a mile away from the farm that I can hunt. And I see this nice buck. It wasn't like, I'm not going to say I got super excited when I saw him, but like, that's an old deer. Looks like a flyer off his G2 on the right side. And he was way across a huge field. And then never really thought too much about it. So going into this season on this particular farm, I knew of 4 deer that fit the description of what I wanted to shoot. The first one, I had the biggest of the 4, very low odds of actually killing him. He was on the very, very north part of the property. And only night pictures. And mind you, this is a small farm too, so it's not like in a big wood setting or something like that where you can just go track them down and figure it out.
Yeah.
You're kind of limited to the boundaries. So
Like how big?
just like 40 acres.
Gotcha.
And some of that's field. So as far as like trees to pick, you're somewhat limited. But I guess location is everything. So the first one, pretty low odds of actually killing him. Obviously, I hunted him like I wanted to kill him. I had cameras. I did all the scouting, but just didn't pan out. The second largest one was that bully buck that had hit that scrape with the buck I killed the year prior. And he's just a large-bodied deer. And then the third one we had, I'll be honest, he was a 3-year-old, and he absolutely blew up from 2.5 to 3.5. He's in the 160s, huge frame.
Whoa.
I didn't want to kill him, but I'll be the first to say if a 160-inch deer walks by, I'm not passing it up on a small or permission property. So he was going to catch an arrow, and I would have caught the flack for killing a 3.5-year-old. I don't care. And then the fourth one was the buck that I ended up killing. So he's by far the oldest deer I had on camera in that area. He was a tank last year. And going into the season, I did not get a video of him until I want to say October 23rd. And he was all gimped up. He looked awful. And I was checking on a lift 2 at a creek crossing. And with the 2-inch view screen, I saw, like, that's him. It sucks that he got that much smaller, but I'm still going to try to kill him. Because, I mean, although his antlers got drastically smaller, he's, in my eyes, still by far a trophy. And he didn't get any dumber. And so I was like, I still want to try to kill this deer. And then what was really interesting, too, is so I got that sequence of him walking by, like, gimping, like, he has a big old knot on his front right shoulder. It looks like his back left hip was busted. Awful. I mean, he's just banged up. And so then it was really interesting. Right after that, that bully 9-pointer was right behind him, all puffed up, like looked like he just kicked some butt. So it's hard to say if his gimp was a little more exaggerated because maybe they did spar. Or, it's hard to speculate. So anyways, I set up near that creek crossing up on top near a bedding area. And I hunted it. I did a hanging hunt. I didn't see a deer. And then we had a south wind, like kind of a southwest wind. And it was going to shoot over a cliff. And I was like right on the edge of the bedding area. And so I was set up. And then my dad was scouting, just like driving around looking for a deer to hunt in general because he starts late every year. Like he's behind the 8 ball every year. So anyways, he's driving around and he's telling me about all these deer he's seeing, chasing. And I'm like, gosh, I picked the wrong spot. I felt really good about it. And then sure enough, I'm sitting there in the stand and I caught a glimpse of an antler and I was like, oh crap. And then I saw his G2, like flied back or curled back, whatever you want to say. I was like, oh crap, that's him. Like it's about to go down. And so he was on top of this ridge, works a scrape. A fresh scrape. The scrape was not there. He worked it right then and there. And then he walked away, and I hit him with the doe bleat, and then he comes back, hits that scrape again, and then he walks away again. I was like, gosh, and I'm in a really thick, nasty spot. I trimmed 0 lanes. My shooting lanes are like zilch. The chance of it coming together feel very low. And so I hit the doe bleat again the second time, and then he disappears. And then this falling down hedge, it's super thick, and I'm sitting there for thinking I see a deer foot for 10 minutes. Like nothing moves, and I'm like, that looks like a deer foot. And I'm not trying to move or anything because I know they stand in that brush and they can see you move around. So I'm just like trying to look at with my naked eye and see if it's, him or like trying to pick out an antler, trying to pick out anything. And then sure enough, his front right foot moves and it was him. And he's like 40 yards away in this thick stuff. And I was like, oh, man, it's going to happen. So then he takes about 10 or 15 more steps, and he's 33 yards, which is actually the furthest I've ever killed a buck. And I'm shooting, and it's a very small, tight window, and I grunt. And he doesn't stop midway. Like, I guess his ears probably perked up, and it's hard to go back and relive it because leading into this, I put a marginal shot on him a little bit further back than what I wanted. And then so I shot him, and it's kind of a crappy feeling, like right when you shoot, you didn't nail him. It's like, oh no, not good. And so he takes off, and then I see him. I wait like 5-10 minutes, and then I call my dad. And, I just killed this deer. I don't think I put a good shot on him. I kind of walking him through it. And then as I was talking to him on the phone, I see this deer like slowly walking down the hill. And mind you, I already had a video of him all gimped up. Like, if you watch that video, he already looks gut shot in October 23rd or whatever.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
And then I'm like, did I miss? Like, I know I had to shoot through a little bit of brush. Like, started questioning everything. Like, I have my binoculars up. I can't see blood dripping from him or anything like that. And I didn't see my arrow sticking out of him or anything like that. And he had 2 wet spots. So I was like, or is one of the one was right where I thought I hit him, and one was like high and further back up his back. And I was like, I know I didn't hit him there. Like, maybe I missed. And those are just, like a dark spot on a deer, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so I slowly see him work down this big, long hill. I probably saw him for a total of like 15 minutes, between 10 and 15 minutes after the shot. So I had plenty of time to look at him, but it was so thick you could only get little pieces. And long story short, I lost him at the bottom of this is like bluff country along some topographical features in Illinois. It's not flat ground. And so at the bottom is a creek, and I saw him head down there. So my thought was, if I hit him where I thought, he should be dead really close to there. And he was headed towards a really big thicket. So that's where I felt if I hit him where I thought and where he was headed, because I did have the luxury of seeing him go that far after the shot, because that made it a lot easier. But anyway, so I got down on the stand. I could not find my arrow. I could not find any blood. I could not find any hair. And mind you, I didn't want to go looking or making a bunch of noise and try to accidentally bump him out of his bed. So there I was thinking, like, okay, I think I shot this tank, but I don't know. And then, like, all the doubt started falling in. Like, I couldn't find the arrow. I couldn't find any hair. I couldn't find any blood. And then I called some tracking dogs just to talk to them and get their suggestion on how to recover them. And they're like, well, did you find your arrow? No. You find any hair? No. You find any blood? They're like, you sure he hit him? And I was like, I felt pretty good I hit him. And like all this doubt, like everyone I talked to was like, well, did you find your arrow? Like, no. And so I shot him at like 8 o'clock, November 3rd in the morning. And then I, thinking where I hit him, I don't think I caught any liver. Like, I think it was a stomach shot, which made me feel really bad knowing that the deer was going to go lay down in a creek bed and die or suffer, especially with such a large, mature deer. Like, what an undignified way to die. Mm-hmm. So I felt really crappy for pretty much the whole day. I didn't sleep that night, and I decided, thankfully my dad took off the morning to work to go help me look for him. And so we got there, we started looking, we couldn't find anything still. We walked all the way down the hill to the point where we thought we could cut his track in the creek crossing. It was like a step that really staggered down. Hard to say for sure. You'd think you'd find a drip of blood or something, but we go about another 50, 60 yards, and I was like, let me go check this camera. Maybe that was the direction he was headed. If he made it that far, we can rule out, start trying to rule out some stuff. And I make a turn to go check that camera darn near close to where I thought he would be. He was dead right there in the creek ditch. And I was like, oh my God, thank goodness.
Nice.
And so we never did find an arrow, and I'm sure I'll find the arrow this winter, but never found any blood or any arrow, but was super patient, didn't want to bump him, and it worked out.
Was there the coyotes didn't get after him or anything? It didn't look like to me, did they?
Nope. So I was still able to, I took that deer to the processor that day, and so we ate it. So yeah, it was the best case scenario. We found him really close. We found him, under a half an hour of time. He was dead. We could eat him completely. So it was a perfect scenario.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. We've had a couple of instances where we've let liver shot deer sit overnight, and it has not worked out good for meat consumption on our part, at least. For the coyotes, it's good, but
right.
It's kind of, we have a video that's gone a little bit viral, at least for us, and it's not been received well. And I think it's just because it's so gruesome what I end up finding with the deer that I shot last year, and it was pretty much, there was no meat at all on it. It was just eaten down to the bones. And it's a frustrating thing for me because at that point I needed some meat anyway. I like cooking. I like eating deer meat and that kind of thing. So I was just gonna, I just kind of wanted to emphasize that leaving a deer overnight isn't always for TV. It's a beneficial thing. It just kind of depends on, it's risk and reward, and you're risking the fact that the coyotes might eat it by leaving it in the morning, but you're also hoping that you don't bump it at night so that it takes off and you never find it, at all. And like you said, in your case, there's no blood really. It was similar to mine. I didn't have much blood at all that I was finding. So I was like, if I bump this deer, there's no blood tracking. I mean, it's just miles and miles of grid searching at that point, and then you got to call landowners and that kind of thing if you want to, it's just not fun. And especially in your case on a 40-acre property, you're probably going to have to call landowners if you bump the deer or whatever. So,
and that was the exact thing I did not want to do. It's like, and I felt embarrassed to tell the landowners that I shot. Like, I put a marginal shot on a deer. I think I'm going to find them. I'm going to come out here. Like, I didn't want to say, hey, can I bring a tracking dog out to your property? Do you have the Rolodex of neighbors? Because I need to call all of them. So, thankfully, he died right there on that property. But I was getting extremely nervous.
Yeah. So, what did you end up finding out that it was straight stomach, or did you hit liver, or what was the?
It was a stomach shot.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
So he went and it was a creek bed that was running, and he got to where two ravines met, and it wasn't necessarily running water, but there was puddles of water, and he bedded straight down in there with his stomach. So that's kind of what I gathered from that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's where I didn't want to have to bring a dog. So it worked out perfectly. I felt crappy for making a bad shot, but it happens. And the worst part was too, the last 4 deer I've killed, I've seen them go down or knew I absolutely nailed them. And it's not as fun. I'm glad I recovered them. Yeah. But there's something about nailing a deer and watching them go down. It's a little more sweet.
For sure, man.
Yeah. It's a lot different, man. And I think that you make a really good point where, you said, I didn't feel good about it, but it happens. I think that's exactly where you need to be as a bow hunter, where, it's going to really stink whenever you mess up a shot. And I just did it about a week ago. And I know exactly where you're at on things. And but it's like, you got to sign up for that whenever you bow hunt. It's like we can't act like it's something that never happens, and because people then don't quite understand what they're getting into. And Tyler's talking about this a ton, where you might be a new bow hunter, and that's your first shot, and you mess up, and it's not a great one, and you think, well, I don't ever need to do this again because I'm terrible and everybody else is good, right? You need a little bit of grounding there, I think. So I think that's a good point, man. But I want to talk a little bit about some tactic here, because this season has been the season where I have not been afraid of the grunt call. I've observed deer enough to where I've decided they are making noise all the time, and a bunch of it, right? But something I'm never brave enough to do is to switch my grunt call over to doe bleat. And as soon as you said that, my ears perked up. So is that something that you've observed, or?
That was the first time I ever did that.
So it's natural impulse, huh?
Yeah, so there is some thought that went into that, though. So I knew that he was banged up. He was a 9 or 10-year-old deer. He probably did not want to fight anybody. So I didn't want to challenge him with a grunt, but obviously he's looking for a doe. He's making that scrape. He checked it twice. He's downwind of a doe bedding area, and that's why I was there that morning. So I guess it was more impulse and kind of intuition. He's looking for a doe. I know he's not looking for a fight, so that's what I went with. Yeah.
Do you think that, in the future, you could possibly observe a deer, judge his body language, whether he's a fighter or a not, and switch back and forth? Say, do you think it would work if you grunted at a buck, he didn't pay any attention to it? Would you then switch over to the doe bleat and just see if that works too?
That'd be a good thought. Yeah. So then I guess so I killed that deer, and I still hunted that farm because there was more bucks to be chased. And the big 9-pointer that was a big bully, I saw him on the hoof November 9th. It might have been November 8th, across the CRP field, walking with a doe. And I tried everything, and he was just locked onto a doe. So I don't know. That's the thing. It's so situational, but I know it seems like so many people are having really great success with calls. And sometimes I think people are underutilizing them or just using them wrong. And to figure out what that magic formula is, let me know when you find out. I'll hear this.
Believe me, I don't have a clue, because there's multiple times this season where Tyler and I were both just blasting bucks with grunt calls, and they didn't even. It's not like they were apprehensive about it. They didn't act like it even existed, and it was real weird. It's a strange thing, but not to just make this a giant Exodus plug, but when things are real, it's real. One of the cool things about running those Lift 2s on video is that the audio is super good. Yes. And that's really one of the things that I've picked up on is dude, whenever bucks and does are together in October and November, like there's like constantly grunts and bleats and things happening all the time. So it's almost as if, say if you're running a decoy or you rattle or whatever, if you're not throwing in vocalizations in there with it, it's going to be almost strange, unrealistic to the deer.
Yeah, that's where I feel like calls and stuff have always been sold so hard to consumers. Like personally, I've always just kind of like, that kind of seems like a gimmick. But this year in particular, I heard more vocalizations than I ever have. And I don't know if that had to do with weather or just being more in the game more often. I don't know.
It's crazy.
That is crazy, man. I actually caught some pretty cool vocalization on camera this year in Iowa, which makes me kind of think about things differently as well. The one thing I don't love about calling to deer that are pretty close is that I'm not, like, my fingers get super cold, man. And like when I grunt call and that deer whips his head up, I have to sit there with my fingers exposed for like, the next 2 or 3 minutes. And that's like the worst feeling ever for a Texan, I think. So
Right.
That's the one thing I don't love. But man, congrats on another awesome deer. Just appreciate your humble approach to this whole thing, man, the deer hunting and also just being in the industry and that kind of thing. And appreciate you guys with the help this year and just appreciate your friendship, man. So thanks for coming on and doing this, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our pleasure.
What's going on for Exodus in 2020, man?
A lot of the same stuff. We launched the render this year. We should be caught up with hopefully having enough inventory to meet the demand for that in 2020. But we're just going to keep grinding, putting out content on Trail Cam Radio. If we ever make it down to Texas, we're going to have to do Whitetail Cribs. We launched a cool little series that releases on Wednesdays. So we're having fun. We're blessed to do what we do and just taking it day by day.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Well, I'm hoping that one of us, me or KC, actually has a crib by the time you get down here, because right now we're both living in RVs and metal shops. So it's a rough life, dude, for the like traveling
It's the
deer
life
hunter.
of a whitetailer.
It is,
That's
dude.
right, dude.
Such
That's
a bum.
exactly right.
Such a bum life, man. But I love it, man. And hopefully we will be able to do that. It's a cool series, and I would be honored to be able to show some of my bucks off, man, and tell the stories, because there's been some cool ones over the years, man. I've been blessed. So anyway, appreciate you guys and what you do, man. And I guess have a good week, man.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having us.
Yep. See you, Jake. Dude, I just love people who are just Sam Hogan's this way too, like just laughing, bumbling around. They act like they're bumbling around, but really they just kill everything, like.
Yeah,
those
it's so
guys.
much like me, except I don't kill stuff. I do laugh and bumble a lot, but the killing is tough, man.
Yeah, it is, man. It is. And now I appreciate people who can do that and do it humbly. And that's just, I don't know. There's plenty of guys out there with some ego that kill. And so there's, I like the ones that don't have the ego part, as I like them a lot too. So
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, dude, I'm looking out here at my yard where we found those sheds the other day, and just crying a little bit inside, because I think one of my bucks has been shot. But I also am crying a little bit inside just because of how big those sheds were, and and how I never got a chance to shoot that deer. So,
well, you still have a chance, sir. There's a little time left in the season. We just need some cooperative weather.
Yeah, my corn situation that draws deer in these vast Texas cedar and oak woods is pretty limited right now. So I've got squirrels that chewed my feeder up pretty good. And
ooh,
yeah, I think it's squirrels, maybe coons, I don't know, but they chewed a hole in the plastic top of my feeder. So now it's just a bunch of soured corn in there, and it won't come out. And so it's just not really looking good around here. Plus, I don't know. I got to find a place, and I think I said I was going to do this last year. I got to find a place a little closer to home so I can, dip out on an evening or something like yesterday evening. I didn't have a whole lot going on. My family was watching a movie at the theater with other family, and so I'm like, man, I could be hunting if I had a spot right now, but I don't, because I was preparing for Iowa and Kansas and Texas public hunts and everything else last year. So
yeah,
I got to figure out something for next year around here local, so that I can just get out in the woods and like feel like I'm actually spending an evening somewhere that's beneficial to my meat situation. So
yeah,
anyway.
For sure, man. Hopefully you can find that for next year. It's been nice for me to have my property, but right now I think it's kind of dried up. So I'm kind of just kind of where you're at. It's like, well, I don't, especially being sick. I was like, I don't really want to go sit outside right now when I know I'm not going to see anything. You know,
Yep.
It's tough.
Well, instead of doing that, I pretty much just drove around for about 25 minutes looking at ponds to see if there's any ducks on them, and then came back and played worship songs and cooked a steak by myself on the grill. So
good night, man.
It was a good night, yeah. But anyway, hopefully we'll get some cold weather that'll put the bucks on their feet the last couple weeks and give us an opportunity just to kind of finish out our season and feel good about it. I mean, I feel pretty good about mine. I know that you have had struggles and that kind of thing, and y'all will hear the story of our last Kansas trip here in a couple days when you listen to that. And it's a long podcast, but there's a lot of good stuff in it, I feel like, and we tried to relate to a lot of people and help people out with seeing our mistakes and our successes and that kind of thing. So make sure and download that when it comes out. Make sure you can subscribe to the podcast if you haven't. That'll keep you in the loop with, all the rest of the episodes that start to release in the year of 2020. Make sure also and subscribe on YouTube, because we just released a duck hunt, and it was one of the weirder hunts I've ever been on. I actually was on the hunt with Darth Vader, which was pretty cool. So go check it out. It's called The Rise of Skyquacker. Thanks to KC, and it's a good time, man. It's a little more like that Duck Commander style of their old videos, where you kind of just feel like you're in the blind with them, and they're just sitting there spitting and talking and being funny and that kind of thing. And that's kind of how I edited this one. A little less music, a lot more talking. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Hope you're having a great holiday season, and God bless you guys. And remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Well, I can see a cross and it still looks the same. It's a red.
Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls. I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like them. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.